Imagine being one of the world's most luxurious airlines, known for speed, service, and style. Now, imagine trying to play a clever game with one of the biggest aircraft manufacturers on the planet and losing spectacularly. That's exactly what happened when Qatar Airways tried to outsmart Airbus, and the story is as dramatic as it is shocking. Qatar Airways, led by the notoriously outspoken CEO Akbar Al Baker, has always had a reputation for being bold. From ordering the largest fleets of Airbus A350s to making headlines with aggressive expansion plans, the airline has never been shy about taking risks. But sometimes, even the boldest plans can backfire, and in this case, it backfired big time. It all began with a simple desire. Qatar Airways wanted to secure the newest, most advanced aircraft for its growing global network. They weren't just buying planes. They were investing in prestige, in luxury, and in a technological edge over competitors. The airline signed one of the largest Airbus A350 orders ever, committing billions of dollars to the deal. But the relationship between Qatar Airways and Airbus was far from smooth. Early on, Qatar Airways noticed some issues with the plane's production quality. Small technical flaws began piling up: paint problems, fuselage wrinkles, and even more serious engine concerns. For a CEO like Al Baker, who doesn't tolerate mistakes lightly, this was unacceptable. And that's when the games began. Al Baker decided to take a bold approach. Instead of quietly negotiating fixes or requesting compensation, Qatar Airways publicly criticized Airbus, calling out the manufacturer for unacceptable quality control. The airline demanded immediate action, threatening to cancel orders worth billions of dollars. This wasn't just negotiation. It was a calculated move to gain leverage, essentially trying to outsmart one of the most experienced aircraft manufacturers in history. But here's where things get interesting. Airbus, unlike most companies, isn't easily intimidated. They understood the stakes, and they knew the airline industry well enough to handle high-pressure tactics. Instead of giving in, Airbus stood its ground, launching extensive investigations into the reported flaws and pushing back on Qatar Airways' public statements. This was a battle of wills, and the media loved every second of it. The problems, as it turned out, were partly genuine and partly overblown. Yes, there were technical issues, but nothing that couldn't be fixed with time, engineering expertise, and rigorous testing. Meanwhile, Qatar Airways continued to make public statements that painted Airbus as incompetent. The airline seemed to believe that pressure, public opinion, and media coverage would force Airbus into submission. However, Airbus had a secret weapon: patience. They knew that rushing or bending under pressure could compromise safety and long-term relationships with airlines around the world. Instead of giving in to the public pressure campaign, Airbus meticulously addressed every technical concern, working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure each A350 met the highest standards. By the time the dust settled, the results were clear. Qatar Airways didn't manage to bully Airbus into anything. The airline faced delayed deliveries, ongoing disputes, and a public perception that some critics saw as petty for such a high-profile company. The intended leverage failed to materialize, and Airbus emerged largely unscathed, if not stronger for having weathered the storm. This story is a fascinating look at how even the most aggressive and ambitious companies can miscalculate. Trying to outsmart a global giant like Airbus isn't just risky. It's almost impossible when the company has decades of experience, engineering expertise, and patience that money alone cannot buy. And for Qatar Airways, this high-stakes game ended with lessons that would shape their future decisions. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the fallout of this showdown, how it affected Qatar Airways' fleet, its reputation in the aviation world, and what it really says about the balance of power between airlines and aircraft manufacturers. The story gets even more intense, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next chapter of this billion-dollar battle. In Part 1, we saw how Qatar Airways tried to pressure Airbus and gain leverage in one of the boldest airline manufacturer battles in recent history. But the story doesn't end there. The fallout from this showdown sent shockwaves across the aviation industry, and the consequences for Qatar Airways were far more significant than most people realized. The immediate impact was on Qatar Airways' fleet. With the ongoing disputes and production delays, the airline faced serious operational headaches. Planned expansions had to be postponed, and routes that depended on new Airbus A350s were affected. For a carrier that prides itself on offering world-class luxury and seamless service, these delays were more than inconvenient. They were a potential blow to their reputation. And reputation is everything in the airline industry. For a brand that positions itself as a symbol of prestige, elegance, and reliability, any hint of mismanagement or disruption can be amplified by competitors and the media. Qatar Airways' public spat with Airbus drew headlines around the globe, painting a picture of a company that was willing to gamble its credibility to score a point in a corporate showdown. But let's be clear, Airbus didn't emerge unscathed either. The manufacturer had to scramble to meet the airline's demands while maintaining its global production schedule. Quality control teams worked overtime, and engineers double-checked every system on every plane destined for Qatar Airways. The pressure was immense, but Airbus' disciplined, methodical approach ultimately ensured that the planes delivered met the highest standards of safety and performance. So why did Qatar Airways fail to outsmart Airbus? The answer lies in a combination of factors: corporate experience, patience, and leverage. Airbus has been in the aircraft business for decades, negotiating with airlines of every size and reputation. They understand the high-stakes nature of these orders and know how to weather short-term pressure without compromising long-term goals. Qatar Airways underestimated just how difficult it is to manipulate a company built on precision engineering and global influence. Al Baker's aggressive strategy, while bold, relied heavily on public perception. By taking the fight into the media, he hoped to pressure Airbus into concessions. But in reality, it risked alienating not only Airbus, but also other partners, suppliers, and even passengers. In the end, the gamble didn't pay off. Airbus maintained its position, and Qatar Airways had to navigate the aftermath carefully to avoid long-term damage. Despite the setbacks, Qatar Airways eventually continued to receive its A350 fleet, but not without lessons learned. The airline adjusted its negotiation tactics, adopted a more private approach to disputes, and reinforced the importance of patience in dealing with global manufacturers. The episode became a case study in aviation circles. Boldness has its place, but understanding your counterpart's strengths is crucial before attempting high-stakes gamesmanship. This saga highlights a universal truth in business: arrogance and impatience can be costly, even for the most successful companies. Qatar Airways' ambition was unmatched, but Airbus' discipline and expertise proved that experience often trumps bravado. In a world where billions of dollars, global reputation, and safety are at stake, it's a reminder that sometimes the smartest move is to let the experts do their work and choose battles wisely. So next time you board a state-of-the-art Airbus A350 on Qatar Airways, remember this: behind that smooth, luxurious flight lies a story of ambition, conflict, and a high-stakes battle that tested the limits of power, patience, and precision. Qatar Airways may have tried to outsmart Airbus, but in this game, experience and discipline always win. And that's the story of how one of aviation's boldest airlines faced its most humbling challenge yet.